more and more drones are flying in airspace, more and more operators want to fly these drones. And the question is, how are we going to safely and efficiently integrate drones into the airspace? And now, as we mentioned earlier on, there's some regulation which is being proposed by the European Commission, and it's symbolized, represented in this little diagram here. And if you look on the left of the diagram, we have the traditional manned aircraft, which is handled today by skyguide, air traffic management. And on the right of this diagram, we have the drone operators. UAS stands for Unmanned Aerial Systems. So these people want to fly unmanned aircraft. On the other side, you have people managing manned aircraft, and clearly there's potential conflict, there's potential situations of risk. And the regulation proposes to take these initial steps. The first one is, if we want to authorize somebody to do something, we need to register him and we need to identify him. So this is what's called the e-registration and the e-identification. But then we also want to know what he intends to do, and we want to we say we approve or we don't approve that activity. We also want to do something which is called geofencing. Geofencing is saying which part of airspace you can access and which part of airspace you cannot access, or which part of airspace you need an approval to access. And this is, if you want, the demonstration we're going to do today is demonstrating the registration, the identification, but then we also want to show how do we manage this unmanned traffic and how do we integrate it safely and efficiently with existing users of the airspace. And what we'd like to demonstrate today is two things, I think, fundamentally, is A, to show that technology exists to implement the regulation, but also to show the use case. Why, in the first place, would you want people flying drones in an urban environment like Lake Geneva? And to make this demonstration possible, we have obviously got our friends from skyguide who do traditional traffic management. They want to show how they can do drone traffic management. So we've got Florent Béron. We've got our friends from AirMap providing technology to skyguide to make that possible. So Brandon here is going to be our skyguide operator. We also have SITAONAIR, who is providing the registry. So this is a global drone registry provided by SITAONAIR, and it's Stefan Scheck is the person who provided that part of the puzzle. I think it's important to see that a lot of people have come together to make this happen and to show how it is interoperable. Then we have the, I think I've covered everybody. We've got the drone operators. We actually have 3 drone pilots. We have Sébastien, who's in Parc Lagrange, and I think can we get a picture of Sébastien? There you are. Sébastien in Parc Lagrange is over there, and he's going to do the first mission, and I'll talk more about that first mission. We have 2 other drone pilots which are just outside. We have Benjamin, and I don't know, can Benjamin wave to the camera? So he's the second drone pilot who's going to want to fly his drone. And the third one is Beat. Can Beat wave to the camera? Beat, yeah, that's Beat waving to the camera, great. And the idea is we're going to have, on the right, we're going to see the drone pilot's perspective. In the center, we're going to see the skyguide operator's perspective. So Brandon is going to be the guy who says yes or no for a flight mission, and the guys in the field are actually going to deploy and do their missions. And so it is a demonstration, so we may have the demo effect, but this is live in terms of real drones will fly, real systems will interact, and real authorizations will be given, and real identifications will be verified. And we want to show that we can implement regulation now. The technology is here to do that. Now, it will evolve, it will improve, but why wait? So that's our key message, is we want to demonstrate to you today that we do not have to wait, we can actually move to the next step. So, I think we can now move on to the big picture. We have here the skyguide dashboard, and this is the view of the skyguide operator, Brandon here. We are, obviously Geneva's in the center, we're just off the side, but the red area is where drones are not allowed to fly. That's actually along the runway. Clearly that's the most dangerous area. And then as you come out, we are into the within 5-kilometer radius of Geneva Airport. Currently, Swiss regulation says that if you want to fly a drone within 5 kilometers of an airport, you need an approval. So we're going to demonstrate how you do this, get this approval on an online system versus today, which is fully manual. The third area we're showing, the green area, is the controlled traffic region. It's called the CTR. And here you are not allowed to fly above 150 meters or 500 feet. Same thing, that's what the rules say today, pretty much the same all over Europe. And the other complexity we have in Geneva is we have a border. So the CTR, the controlled traffic region, if you look, is actually got the border with France. So technically speaking, you would not be allowed to fly into France because you need approval from the French authorities. It makes it even more complex. So I think Geneva is a perfect place to demonstrate use space systems because A, urban environment, B, we have an airport, and C, we have a border, and obviously we have areas where you're not allowed to fly, like United Nations or concerts and so on. So that's a big picture, and this is a perspective from the skyguide operator. Now, the first thing we want to demonstrate is the registration. So Brandon's now going to switch to a public website. Let's go ahead with this demonstration. We want to show, obviously, you need to create an account, which is kind of obvious thing you do. You put your email and you put a password and it's verified. Kind of standard stuff here. The second stage is you need to enter your credentials. Also, we're going to ask you for your mobile phone number. Kind of two reasons we do that. A, we want to make sure you're not a robot. Brandon is a real person. He actually has a mobile phone, and we're going to send him an SMS to make sure he actually owns or is in possession of that mobile phone, and he will get a code by SMS. He'll enter the code. But it's also a way to communicate with the drone pilot. We can either communicate through online, but we can also communicate through his mobile phone. He's now entered that code. The system is verified. We want to show that this platform exists, but it's important to know this is a global registry, because it's important that if I buy a drone online, I register in Switzerland, but I go on holiday, let's say in Greece, and I want to take great aerial shots of my sailing in Greece, I want to use the same registration process on the same platform we want around the world. Now, I'm going to enter my address, straightforward. Now, I want to make sure that Brandon is really Brandon, and I want him to give me some proof of identity. So he'll give me his ID or his passport, and then we could use a trusted third party, which would make sure that the ID is presented is authentic, and it matches the person who's presented it. So we do that. That's kind of using e-banking as a traditional process. Same thing here. You want a trusted system. You want people to verify the information which is provided. The next step is some countries, and in the future you can imagine that there could be drone licenses for pilots to make sure they're qualified for given missions. So that information could also be entered here. As I said, this is based on blockchain technology, so in the future we can add information. That information can be modified, but also it can be verified and it can be trusted. That's a whole point of the blockchain as a trusted distributed ledger. Now, payment, you can imagine that some service are premium. This is how you would actually fund the system. As it is with manned aircraft, some flights are free, some flights you have to pay if you're using the services from skyguide. Same thing here, we enter that. Now, this is a key thing. This number here is your pilot identification. This is unique. This is issued by the authority. In Switzerland, it will be issued by the Federal Office of Civil Aviation. And this is the registration, the ID that you would use wherever you want to operate your drone. And with the pilot, we want to associate a drone. So here's the detail of the pilot, and now we're going to go on the screen which allows that pilot to add a drone. And here we've preset some existing drones in the systems, the one we're using. So we're going to choose the Intel drone. We're going to say the serial number of that Intel drone I've purchased, let's say online. Once I've done that, I'm going to say what kind of activity, if it's hobby, commercial, etc. Most of the features. Once I've done that, I submit that information through the e-registration. Same thing, the authority will give me a unique identification for that drone. So the authorities will know that that identification is tied to that pilot, and if something happens, we have traceability, we have accountability, and we can find out who is the guy responsible for that mission. And you could have multiple pilots, multiple drones, and how do you do that? But we'll see as we submit a flight plan, you need to know who is going to be responsible for that flight and what equipment is he using, so the authority is saying, okay, we approve that flight because we know that drone is safe, we know that pilot is safe. The other thing is, because it's a shared ledger, some authorities, other authorities need to be able to access that list. So we're going to show the view of skyguide. Skyguide can see all of the drone pilots which are registered with their unique identification. And if we take Stefan Sheikh. Click on that. We have all his credentials, all the information regarding Stefan. We can see what drone he has registered. And this information is accessible to skyguide, but also Civil Aviation Authority, police. Anybody who needs to have access to information can have access to it because it's a shared and distributed ledger. I think it's really important. And this is the only way we're going to be able to scale the system. We've got millions of drones being sold every year. We have millions of users. We can't do it the old traditional way with a paper and one guy handling one register. We need to have a scalable back end if you want to do this. And different authorities being able to access these, this registration, e-registration. I think that covers e-registration. So now we want to go into the three missions we're going to demonstrate. And obviously each mission has an objective. We want to demonstrate one aspect of the service, but we also want to put some context. So the first mission, the first flight is going to be Sébastien, who's in Parc Lagrange. There's Sébastien, and he is using a fixed-wing drone. So what we're going to see now is Sébastien is going to create that flight plan on his ground control station. Same again, this is the view from skyguide, from the operator. On the right, we have the view from the drone pilot. And this is his screen on his computer. He's now created this flight plan, which is the white lines. You can see where he wants to fly, which is the area he wants to go and scan. And once he's created this flight plan, he's going to then submit that to skyguide for approval. Because he's flying within 5 kilometers of Geneva Airport, he needs that approval. And we want to show that this is done online and how it's done in a sort of integrated way. First of all, he's going to have to submit the identification as his pilot identification and the drone identification. He then needs to get the approval for the flight, and then he has to make sure the communication between his platform and skyguide is working correctly. And that's what I call the 3 greens, which you can see here. The drone ID, the approval for the flight, and the last one, which is the communication. And from Brandon's perspective, he sees on his flight plan list that Sébastien has submitted a flight plan. He can actually visualize the flight plan with the area in which he wants to fly, at the altitude at which he wants to fly. So he has a 3D space, if you want, even 4D, because he knows when and how long he's going to do that mission. And then Brandon can now decide to approve or reject that flight plan. And he's going to now approve it. And once it's approved, it is approved, is it, Brandon? Yeah, it's been approved, sorry. So once it's been approved, Sébastien is now clear to take off. He's checking that the drone is working correctly, and he's going to launch it. And once he's done that, there's 2 things we can see on. Let's him do that. So that's just over there in the park, taking off, heading out over the lake, and he's going to start inspecting the future construction site, which will actually start in, I think, 10 days' time. And there we are. And what Brandon can see now is icon, which symbolizes Sébastien's drone. You can see where it is actually. You can track it. And you can see the area in which Sébastien is going to be flying. This is all live. This is all fully integrated, both between the pilot's perspective and the skyguide operator's perspective. So all the information that is collected by the ground control station of Sébastien is being sent over to Brandon, so he can have he can supervise and he can see what's happening. Here we are. So we actually, in this screen on the right, we're at the harbor, which is that white area. Now we want to do a second mission, because we obviously want to demonstrate the safe and efficient integration airspace, so we want to put more than one drone into the same airspace. We're going to have a second flight, and this time it's Benjamin, who's just outside. And Benjamin has got a smaller quadcopter drone, so we want to show different kinds of drones, different capabilities. And he is able to do vertical takeoff and landing, so he can take off from the terrace here. And he's actually going to inspect the crane, which is on the left here. So he's going to submit his flight plan, very local. He's using a drone which is designed for this mission, and on purpose he's going to enter an altitude which is too high. As I said earlier on, the maximum altitude you're allowed to fly here is 500 feet, 150 meters, and how the system will not allow Benjamin to actually go ahead with his flight. And we see the second flight appearing on Brandon, so the skyguide operator in the center. He can see the plan, he can see the area, but he can see the altitude is too high, so he's going to reject that flight. Same thing, this is done today manually for the demonstration purpose, but this could be semi or fully automatic, so increase, let's say, productivity. So it's been rejected. Benjamin is going to change the altitude. He will resubmit his flight plan, and it will get approved. Same thing. So this is drones provided by senseFly. So the interface is the same as the first flight. But we wanted to show it's a different kind of drone doing a different kind of mission, but it is fully integrated. And obviously, we want to show how the information is flowing. Now, so it has been approved. We should see now a picture of Sebastian's Albrus drone taking off to go inspect the crane. Here we are. So Benjamin is cleared for takeoff. We're going to see that in any moment. Here we are. Once the operating is visible on the skyguide operator screen, here we are. Drone takes off. This is an inspection drone. You can see it's very different from the first one. Different icon appears on the dashboard to separate a fixed-wing drone from a quadcopter. And it's heading out. Actually, it's heading out to inspect the flagpole, looks like. Huh? Okay. And same thing, we can track the position of that drone. All the information is available to skyguide. The two drones are sharing the same airspace, but the information is being shared between the drone operators, so they are aware. Here you are. This is the Albrus. Okay, so the third flight we want to do is Beat, and here what we want to demonstrate is a different drone operator provided by a different supplier. The company here is PX4. PX4 actually makes an open source autopilot, which is used by many manufacturers of drone. They actually want to be the, let's say, the androids of drone, which is kind of interesting because it's going to create even more opportunities. They have developed their own ground control station, which is what you see on the screen on the right. And he's going to now inspect the port. The mission could be just look at how many boats are in the harbor, look at what condition they're in, etc. So what we want to show here is that a different system can connect to skyguide, and he's submitted his flight plan. The flight plan appears on Brandon's screen. Brandon can approve that flight. Same thing as before. He has all of the authorizations and approvals, which we see here. And as you look on the screen on the right, it's going from authorization pending to approved, flight approved. So he is now cleared to take off. So we have three different systems here. We have the senseFly system, PX4 system, and the skyguide system, which is powered by AirMap technology. But all three systems are live, exchanging information in this demonstration. And this covers the first steps of the European Commission's proposal for regulation. So this is technology which is already implementing regulation, which is kind of at a very early stage at the European Commission. So here, that's a flight from the PX4. What we want to show you is on the pilot screen how he's fully aware of the other drone traffic. This is showing us, in pink we have Sebastian's original flight, but in yellow we have the other drone traffic and the altitude. And we can see there's two boxes, not very clear, one was yellow. But as he zooms out, we can also see on his screen the boxes representing the manned traffic. This is airplanes either landing or taking off from Geneva International Airport. A lot of traffic in the area, as you can see, all obviously wanting to go and land Geneva Airport. But the key message of this screen is to say they're not using the same airspace. The drones are flying below 150 meters. They're flying around where we are today. They're not allowed to fly near the airport. and therefore there's no risk of conflict between this drone traffic and the manned aviation, the traditional aviation, because they don't actually need to use and don't want to use the same airspace in general. However, there are exceptions, and what we want to show you is how, in certain cases, this airspace could be closed because we could have, for example, a search and rescue mission. And we want to show how you can manage those situations with what is called dynamic geofencing. So Brandon now is going to define an area where the search and rescue mission is going to happen. He's now doing it on the screen in the center. He's going to add a description of why this area is being closed, and helicopter mission inbound, and that the operators need to abort their missions within 5 minutes. But what is very powerful about this demonstration is, as he creates dynamically this geofencing, he's going to publish it, and it will be pushed automatically to all the drone operators in that region. And we will see, from a pilot's perspective, here we are. This is the PX4 ground control station view on the right. And the zone in red, which was defined by Brandon, now appears on the screen of the pilot operator. He's got the reason. He will get that confirmation. Brandon will send another message to the mobile phones of all the drone operators as an SMS. So second channel to get that information across. So if I summarize what we've seen the registration of both pilots and drones. We've seen how we can identify those pilots and drones in the airspace. We've seen how we can manage geofencing, so allowing or not allowing access to some airspace for the drone. We've seen how flight plans can be submitted and approved, so everybody is aware of what other parties are trying to do. We've also seen how the workflows are fully integrated. The workflow of the drone operator, the workflow of the air traffic controller operator. This is fully integrated. And last but not least, we saw the dynamic geofencing, where we closed part of the airspace because priority had to be given to a manned aircraft. And I think the key message here is that this is it is maybe a demonstration, but it is live. And it's an amazing achievement from, as we heard, 30 people. We can see here Sebastian's going to recover his drone. 30 people have collaborated on making this happen. We have different partners provide different building blocks, and all these building blocks are working, are interfacing, and they are helping to make, helping to integrate drones into airspace both safely, efficiently, but I think it's also worth mentioning that they're making it secure. Also, you want to make the access to the airspace equitable. We need to have a solution which is scalable, because we don't know what drones these guys are going to come up with in the future. We don't know how drones are going to be used, so we have to have a system which will scale and is adaptable. And I think this is an excellent demonstration of that.